let's write isMultiple and isFactor. Okay, so isMultiple takes two numbers m and n and returns true if m is a multiple of n and false otherwise, noting that 0 is a multiple of every integer because you can multiply an integer by 0 to get 0. Here are some examples. 2 is not a multiple of 10. Naturally, 10 is a multiple of 2, but order matters here. We're asking if 2 is a multiple of 10. We're asking if 10 is a multiple of 2 here, and that's why this one's true and this one's false. isFactor kind of works the other way around. It takes a number f and n and says, is f a factor of n? And here's the testing for isFactor. Is 2 a factor of 10? It is. So basically, the number is a factor of another number if that second number is a multiple of the first number. So we're going to kind of write these two functions together because certainly we could use one of them to solve the other. So let's go ahead and work on isMultiple. Okay, so we'll start by copying this code. And there we go. We'll go over here and we'll paste it. Okay, so now we want to write isMultiple. So to begin with, we should realize that when you say 15 is a multiple of 3, right? What you're saying is if you divide 15 by 3, the remainder will be 0. That's what it means to be a multiple, that the remainder is 0 when you divide. That's at least one way to say what it means. Okay? So I'd say that is m a multiple of n? Okay, let's make sure we got the order right. We're testing if m is a multiple of n. Yes, okay. So what we say is if when we divide m by n, when we divide 15 by 3, if we get 0, then yes, otherwise no. Okay, that sounds really reasonable, and actually it's not bad. Okay, it's not going to work, but it's almost going to work. We run it, and we crashed. But actually, let's see how far we got. Okay, we crashed on line 16. We crashed on this line, which means that these tests worked. Cool. We crashed on the first test that used a 0 because we were testing if 5 is a multiple of 0. Okay, and so we tested 5 mod 0. The remainder, when you divide 5 by 0, well, you can't divide 5 by 0. It gets exactly that error. You can't take a remainder when you divide by 0. That crashes. So you have to test for that separately. We have to say, hey, if the number n is 0, do something special. Otherwise, we can go ahead and do this. Do the normal thing. So what's the special thing? You might think if n is 0, then it's just not true because nothing could be a multiple of 0, right? 5's not a multiple of 0. 100's not a multiple of 0. So if we're checking if something's a multiple of 0, it's not. It's just false. This is close, but still wrong. We run it, and it still failed. We got further. We got past this test, and we crashed on this test because it turns out that 0 is a multiple of 0. Oh, boy. And right in here, we're saying nothing is a multiple of 0. So we really want to say, hey, if m is 0, then yes, otherwise no. So might be a counter. 0 is a multiple of 0. But we'll say anything but 0 is not a multiple of 0. Okay? So now we realize what we're going to do is check if n is 0. If it is, if they're both 0, we have a multiple. Otherwise, we don't. You only get down here if, in fact, n is not 0, and then we can just check for the remainder. And we run this, and oh, it didn't work, and it did. isMultiple worked, but isFactor did not. Of course, isFactor did not. Here's our isFactor. So if f is a factor of n, this one's straightforward. You just return is it true that n is a multiple of f. And that worked. But this is confusing code sometimes for new programmers. So let's try it this way. You might say if n is a multiple of f, I'll return true. otherwise I'll return false. Okay, so that still works. Okay, but that's actually exactly the same as this code right here in terms of how it behaves. I want to get back up here for a moment. Okay, so we have this if, and then if n is 0, we're inside here. If n is not 0, we hit this else, but else is another if. We really don't need to indent here. This could have been an elif, which would let us do this and outdent that one. So if n is 0, do this stuff. Else if, or elif, n is a factor of m, do this, otherwise do that, return false. Okay, and this is cleaned up a bit. Again, we could keep doing this and showing you different ways, variations of solving it. All these variations are fine. You're not looking for the solution. You're looking for a solution that works, that's correct, and that's relatively clear. And again, so here's our answer as we have it now to is factor. And here's our answer as we have it now for is multiple. And again, there's many other ways that we could have written this. I hope that helps.